So why not CA? Why MBA?
I was more inclined towards the general management side of business.
80% of CFOs are actually CS. They are not MBA finance folks. Would your aspiration change because of this?
I could always be one of the 20%.
So how would you define finance in one sentence?
How to source funds for the business, how to allocate those funds, how to maximize shareholder wealth.
Playing cards can be risky and addictive. What is risk?
Risk is when we go for a certain opportunity, there's always a probability that it may not work out. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Hi.
Nisheeta, will start with your introduction. So tell us something about yourself.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm Nisheeta Odedra. I'm pursuing BBA from IMS currently. I come from a closely knit joint family where my father and uncle run a business together. During school, I have always been academically inclined. I was one of the only 2 students in my batch to receive the roll of honor consecutively for 3 times. It was an academic distinction reserved for students with consistent academic performance. I was always inclined towards quantitative and analytical subjects and curious about learning more about business. So after my 10th grade, I opted for the commerce field and thereon started pursuing my BBA. I have been a part of the organizing committee in my college fest for 2 years. I also completed an internship at a CA firm where I gained practical knowledge about the compliance and accounting side of business. Apart from these things, I enjoy solving brain teasers, Sudoku, participating in mystery room challenges, unwinding with friends and family through board games and card games. Also, over the last few months, I have incorporated a fitness routine wherein I try to work out 3 to 4 times a week to enhance my physical well-being as well as gain more mental clarity.
Okay, all right. So I can see you graduated from, you're currently in Anil Surendra Modi School of Commerce, right?
Yes.
Who is Mr. Anil Surendra Modi?
Anil Surendra Modi and his family was closely associated with the Shri Vileparle Kelavli Mandal, and his family contributed to the trust, and the School of Commerce was named after him.
Okay, all right. Now you mentioned that you like brain teasers. Okay, so we'll start with the brain teaser.
Okay.
Okay. So there is a treasure, and there is a guard who is guarding that treasure, and people of course want the treasure. So the first person goes, and the guard says 12, and this person is expected to respond. So he responds with 6, and he is allowed inside. Okay. The next person comes. The guard says 6, and the person says 3. He is also allowed. Now, if you go there and the guard says 8, what would be your response?
4.
4 is not the right answer.
Okay.
I wouldn't be asking a question like this.
So it goes 12, 6, 6, 3. If you're not dividing it by 2, I'm thinking on the lines of adding the digits of 1 and 2. I'm not sure of the final answer.
Okay, no problem. Okay. You also mentioned on your application that you like traveling. And I saw one interesting thing that you mentioned that I want to travel to 100 countries. So why 100? What is this specific obsession with 100 as a number?
I would say more than 100 countries. I would love to explore the cultures of different countries, continents. And that is something I will be able to do once I'm a little bit more well settled into my career. So it's a life goal of mine that's not really associated with career, but it is more of an exploring. So I would love to also like explore new languages. Like I've heard from a friend that before you go to France, you have to learn French, at least the basics of it, and so that you can understand their culture better. So that is something I'm interested in.
What's the last place that you traveled to?
The last place that I traveled to was Vrindavan in Mathura.
Okay. And anything specific that you liked about the place?
I think there's a lot of positive energy in the place, not only from the temples, but also the river Yamuna. It is very serene in the morning, in the early morning, and it is also really crowded at even 4 a.m. in the morning. So we've also been to the Govardhan mountain and traveled about there. So it is a very calming place.
Okay. You also mentioned card games in your introduction. So a lot of Indian families say you should not be playing with cards. So when you grow up, there are families who say that you should not be playing card games.
Correct.
So what's your take on it?
I would say that if involved with money, it becomes a form of gambling, which can be risky and addictive. So I think it should be avoided. But the card games that I and my family engage in usually are only for fun, like the game Judgment and other Mafia, the games that involve bonding over including money in the game.
Okay. What is card counting?
Card counting is basically, for example, if I'm playing poker, there are 5 cards on the river. I have 2 in my hand, number of players. It is indirectly calculating what could be the next card that opens up. It is considered to be unethical or illegal in certain casinos. So it kind of diminishes the spirit of the game by trying to be more calculative about it. So it's considered immoral in a lot of casinos.
Okay. All right. Girish?
So you mentioned playing cards can be risky and addictive. And going into risk analysis is one of your career objectives.
Yes.
So how would you define risk? What is risk?
Risk is when we go for a certain opportunity, there's always a probability that it may not work out. So working on those lines of how to mitigate risk in business opportunities, that is something I would be interested to learn.
Now you mentioned you were interested in quantitative and analytical skills right from the beginning. And also, that was one of the reasons why you went for commerce. So how did quantitative skills help you in commerce? Because you might have as well gone for engineering in that case.
So while I studied all the science subjects up to 10th standard, and I could score well, but my inclination and my interests were not towards the technical skills that come in physics as well as chemistry. I was more inclined towards mathematics, and then after 10th, when I learned the other subjects of economics and accounts, those interested me more of how a business really functions, which I think I could not have done as much if I went into something like engineering.
Okay. So why not CA? Why MBA?
When I talked to a lot of my friends actually considered the career option when I was in 12th grade. So a lot of my classmates were preparing for the CA foundation exams. I glanced through the curriculum briefly, and it was very taxation, business law heavy. And while it is a very reputed, it's a very prestigious degree to have, I was more inclined towards the general management side of business when I talked to a few more seniors about pursuing a BBA. So that is something that interested me more.
So you mentioned you glanced through the curriculum of CA and something did not click.
Yeah.
So we are assuming you also glanced through the curriculum of MBA. So what clicks in that?
Briefly, because there are various subjects like the operations side. I've briefly studied the organizational business side in BBA, the finance, the marketing. So all of those come together and something clicks where business activities start to make sense because there have to be various angles through which an opportunity has to be looked at. So I've studied those in my BBA, and I would like to go deeper into those in my MBA.
So how would you define finance in one sentence?
Finance is a branch of business that determines how to source funds for the business, how to allocate those funds, and how to maximize shareholder wealth.
So what is happening in share market these days?
Um, As of the last 6 months, it has been going down. It is not as robust as it was. It has come through a few geopolitical scenarios and tensions between countries. And people are inclining more towards safer assets like gold.
Okay, so you want to get involved in areas like long-term wealth planning, mergers, acquisitions, and risk analysis. So these three are very different areas in finance.
Definitely. So while I have a rough view about how I want to be in corporate finance, I want to explore those areas more, learn about them from faculties and peers, and then I would be able to make a better decision as to where my capabilities fit the best.
So what is current repo rate?
The current repo rate is 5.25%.
Now suppose it becomes 6%. So is it good or bad?
It is bad for the commercial banks because it will become more expensive for them to borrow money, and they may subsequently raise the loan rates for the public.
So what are the golden rules of accounting?
There are 3 golden rules to accounting. Debit what comes in, credit what goes out. Debit the receiver, credit the giver, and debit all expenses and losses and credit all incomes and profits.
So what is deferred tax liability?
I'm not very certain about the definition, but it is something that comes in due to the difference of accounting and the actual depreciation calculation that happens in business, as well as the tax liabilities. So it depends on how the expenses and income are calculated.
And who was 𝐶𝐫𝐻?
He's a figure from medieval history.
But
I'm not.
you are into quizzing, right? You participated in history quizzes?
Yes.
Okay, so regarding quizzing, I have a question. What is the meaning of the word trivia?
Trivia is the specific knowledge of something.
Okay, what's the, like if you break down the words, what do you get? What is the origin of the word? Think of root of the word.
Trivial, is it?
Yeah, but what does trivial mean?
It means important.
Is it important or unimportant?
It's the opposite. It means it is a very like small information that is not as important.
So in your
confuse it.
quizzing days, let's say if you have come across anything that is very interesting, you think this was a very interesting question and answer to that question, would you like to share it with the panel? Or share any piece of trivia with us?
Any piece of
Anything.
trivia. I would say I come from Thane. So it is the city of lakes because there are quite a few popular lakes over there. To name a few, Talao Pali, the Upfan Lake, the Kachrali Lake, the 𝐼𝐸𝐿 Lake. So on my day-to-day, like if I travel across a few places in Thane, I would see more than one lakes on my way there.
Okay, all right. You mentioned gold in your answer. So you said when Girish asked you about stock market, you mentioned a lot of people are moving towards gold.
Yeah.
So there is a famous quote that if let's say aliens are watching what people are doing with gold, they're just digging gold outside and then they're putting walls to protect it and so on. So something on these lines basically. So what's the utility of gold?
The utility of gold originally was that it is a precious metal that was not as easy to mine. So it was used as a security to back the money that we print. And it also has ornamental uses in a country like India.
Okay. Do you see ornamental usage increasing, decreasing?
It is definitely not decreasing. India is one of the biggest importers of gold. But I would also say that holding gold in ornaments is kind of an unproductive saving that people do because there's always an opportunity cost to just holding the gold. Of course, apart from capital appreciation, which has been happening. So anyone who holds gold from a few years back is at a profit if they want to sell it. But it does not have an inherent earning capability if it's held in the form of ornaments.
Okay. What are sovereign gold bonds?
Sovereign gold bonds are issued by the government. It is the electronic form of gold which can be held electronically.
Okay. Are they still issuing these bonds?
I'm not sure, but I think yes.
So is Indian rupee backed by gold?
It is, I think gold is one of the reserves that it is backed by.
Tell me what you want to do in the future. So you have, Girish asked you about 3 different things that you have mentioned. But say, where do you see yourself 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line?
10 or 15 years down the line, I'm hoping to make my way through finance in the corporate world, be in one of
That's
the
very
senior,
generic.
hopefully as a CFO. But I definitely know that I want to do something in the field of finance, but I don't know what exact field out of the 3 that were mentioned.
Okay, now let me help you with a statistic. Okay, I don't have a statistic, so I'm making it up. And you come across something which says that 80% of CFOs are actually CAs.
Okay.
They are not MBA finance folks. Would your aspiration change because of this?
I don't think so, because I could always be one of the 20%.
Do you think that would be a wise decision to take from a probabilistic point of view?
I can't, I don't want to sound very like I'm bragging, but I don't think I have ever been in the bottom 80% throughout my academic life so far. And I'm on track to.
But there's no top bottom here, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I think I would be able to make it to the 20% from what I've seen so far in life.
Okay, all right. Okay, fine. We'll end it here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, now your interview is over. Now I'll begin with the feedback. So how do you think it went?
I think it was moderate. There are definitely a few answers that I can refine. So I would want to know more about that.
So what was the first question that we asked you?
Tell me about yourself.
So why do you think we asked that question?
To give a basis for how the interview might go. Like,
So do you think you did justice to that answer?
it could be made better.
Yeah. So very first sentence that you mentioned is thank you for giving me this opportunity. So may not be a good idea to talk about that in the interview.
Basically, don't thank the panel. Don't thank them in the beginning.
Then you mentioned about your family. That was the very second sentence. See, ultimately, you may have probably 40 seconds to 1 minute max, in case they had cut you short. Then all you would have been able to mention is thank you for giving me this opportunity and a little bit about your family background. Are they going to select you because of your family background?
No.
Probably not. They will select you for what you are, right? So, do you think you did justice to that? You mentioned about your school, your roll of honor. That is fine. I'm not saying it's a quote unquote trivial thing, right? It's a good achievement to have. But it is maybe about 5 years old achievement.
Yeah.
How about the current things? And also, right in the introduction, you may not want to talk about your achievements as such. So what is it that you did or what is it that you do? Maybe some interesting project in the college that you're doing, something about your final year project. See, the idea is that you have to give them some hooks so that the conversation can proceed from there.
Right. Yeah.
Then you, on your own, you mentioned you did internship in a CA firm. So there is no reason so it's like you invited the question. Why not CA, why MBA?
Yeah.
Are you getting the idea? So you don't want to talk about anything that will get you into trouble.
Okay, got it.
Now, the answer to only first question is in your control. What happens later is not in your control, in the sense where the interviewer will ask questions from. So don't invite trouble for yourself. Then, when you mention about this CA versus MBA, so the idea is, of course, you did not do that quite, but the idea is not to say that CA is bad.
No, definitely not.
It's the only thing is that you are not interested in that. And you mentioned that you glanced through the syllabus of CA. So just I would strongly suggest to revise that answer, because you glance through the syllabus of the CA, and each CA book is like this thick. So just by having a glance at the syllabus for just couple of pages, so what insights can you get out of that? Probably not much. So idea that you want to convey, CA is more into accounting, auditing, gets very deep into one particular aspect. But I'm more interested into, say, CA studies balance sheet and income statements and all. But what economic activities drives those numbers? That is what I'm more interested in.
Okay.
So that's why. And then you can talk about a little bit about this finance and how finance is important. That's why you want to go for finance. Yeah. That way you can structure the answer.
Okay. So Nisheeta, I think you underperformed in this interview, right? See, you have lot of things that are there on your profile, and maybe this is the first time that you are in a setting like this, so maybe because of that you got a little bit, I don't know, maybe nervous, I would say, because with this kind of profile, right, 10, 12 grad scores, even CAT score and whatever, right, your performance should be much better than this, and I hope it progresses with time. So see, in introduction, whatever you mentioned, right, it's your opportunity to highlight who you are as a candidate. And you have to be careful there, because, see, that is where nobody has time to go through your answers, right? You have calls from some of the top colleges. The answers are really long.
Yeah.
Panel members are not going to read it. So you have to assume that they don't know anything. And now I have to pick, let's say, 7, 8 things, sentences that are the best representative of who I am as a candidate. So when you say, for example, I did an internship, one way is to leave it there, and the other is to say add something to it, right? That this was my contribution, or this was the project that I worked on, or whatever it may be. Correct. I don't even know how long was that internship. Right?
Yeah.
Then you said brain teaser, Sudoku, and all. Sudoku is still fine. Brain teaser, the problem with brain teasers is that it gets into really random zone. The puzzle that I asked you was asked to me in one of my interviews, actual B school interviews. I could not answer it at that point of time. And I left the interview room, I started going down the stairs, and I got the answer. And hopefully you'll get the answer too. Then I asked you about Anil Surendra Modi.
Yeah.
I need more depth, right? So
I looked it up, but there's not a lot of information about it.
fair enough. You can structure your answers better. See, all the answers, I think you didn't give us enough to ask follow-up questions. And that is why when that happens, the questions start getting random. So one question could be related to gold, the next is related to traveling, and they're not related. So you want the interview to have some sort of a flow, and that flow you can direct. So give us something more, something extra that you can cover, not to an extent where we start losing interest, but enough to pick cues from it and say, okay, fine, this is the next question for you. Correct. See, your ACATS is sorted, and most of the finance questions, I think you answered them, but you could have done a better job. I would expect, let's say, somebody with such a high CGPA to be giving slightly better answers. So build more depth, and that is your responsibility. It's not panel's responsibility to bring that depth from you. Okay. For example, what was the last place that you traveled to? Right. There was no context. So when you traveled, why you traveled, right? So build a story. Think of yourself as a storyteller. So if now you have to rethink and reframe this answer, what would you say?
I would start with my family is a part. It is mostly like driven by my family. I've been there.
I'll not do that. So I will start with something like, if somebody says, what was the last place that you traveled to, right? So you can say that I make it a point to travel to, let's say, 2 new places every year.
Okay.
Okay. The last place that I visited, so this initial setting is just to show that how involved you are in the activity. And then you say the last place that I traveled to was Vrindavan, because so now if you want to say that, okay, I'm a spiritual person, then you can add that. that I'm somebody who is a spiritual person and I wanted to have that sort of an experience. That is why I went there. Then I traveled to XYZ, and this is what I gathered from the whole place. So the answer has to be self-contained. Right? So start, middle, end. Then card counting, right? Then you said unethical, illegal. I didn't probe you further, but these are two very different things.
Yeah, I was
Something
not
could be
sure about that.
unethical but legal. Okay. Then risk analysis and everything that was discussed with Girish. Then you again that briefly thing that I have also written. The moment you said why not CA, I glanced through it, I briefly looked at it. Like you can't take that decision that way, right? So then somebody could have easily countered by saying you are trying to be a risk, you are somebody who's interested in risk, and you haven't done due diligence, and then you are arriving at a conclusion, correct? So I am not criticizing what you have done. I'm just saying that that answer has to be justified in a better manner. And see, you have a lot of good things. I've written you kept looking at both of us. Some people have that tendency that while they're answering, they'll only look at the person who asked that question. You kept looking at both of us, all of those things. Communication wise, you're sorted. You're not doing a lot of that kind of a thing. No filler words, hardly anything I noticed, right? All of those things are working in your favor. But now, where is the depth? Which is expected from IMS and the other B schools of the world, right? Then you said, then he asked you that you've gone through CA syllabus and then you decided. So you must have seen MBA syllabus as well. Now, with somebody who has done BBA, your answer is operation, organization, and something, finance, marketing. Where is depth? So that depth is your responsibility. Please take that. Okay. Then finance definition was, I think, fine. Source of funds, allocation, and maximizing shareholder wealth. I thought the follow-up question was going to be define shareholders. Anyway, then gold came into the picture. Okay. Repo rate, golden rules, deferred tax liability, Sirajuddola. What happened to Sirajuddola?
I don't know.
So there are some things that are slightly risky, and you mention them by understanding that risk is always going to be there. So quizzing, the moment you say quizzing, I'm not saying don't say it, but be open to getting a really arbitrary question that possibly nobody will be able to answer at that point of time, correct? But then I gave it, then I allowed you to tell me something that you know, that you could have capitalized on. So I said, okay, fine. Now tell me what is trivia. Okay, so the actual definition is three ways, three different streets coming together. It's like trivia.
I've read about
Correct.
it and I could not recall it
That's
at the
okay.
moment.
Then I said, tell me something trivial. And you started talking about Thane and lakes, which I think would have been better. I'm not, again, criticizing what you said, but I'm saying there's so much trivia to be shared. And since you're participating in quizzing, I'm sure you would have come across something which is like really trivial, but you think it's a very interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's that hidden arrow in FedEx logo, right? Extreme trivia. But then sovereign gold bonds, whatever. So see, questions will start getting random. And then I ask you, okay, 10, 15 years, where do you see yourself? Then you said CFO. Then I'm like, okay, fine. I give you a statistic that CAs are CFOs. Then what? So all of this discussion is not going anywhere.
Correct. Yeah.
And you could have tightly controlled it. See, in the beginning, when you said something like fitness routine, it never came back. Why? Because the interview is not going in any direction. A lot of it is just random. Because we also don't know what to ask you next. Because you are not giving us enough to pick from. So your answers have to be slightly longer. Even if you add 2 more sentences to every answer that you have given, your interview would have been very different today. Okay, so build depth. Okay, now if I ask you, let's say the same question. Okay, the question is basically related to me giving you a statistic that 80% of CFOs are CAs. Does that change anything? How would you structure this answer?
I don't know how to frame it, but
What will you cover?
I want to cover that what CAs study is not everything that it is about being a CFO. There are a lot of external factors that come in. Like you mentioned that I could have added why the economic activities affect the numbers. So that part also comes in to take strategic decisions in a business. So that is something that is beyond what the depth of being a CA covers. So I could gain that through working, through work experience.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add?
I'm not sure about it, but I might want to pursue CFA sometime in the near future. So I don't know if I should add that or not.
Okay. See, what I would suggest is when you are at home, right, preparing answers for interview questions, imagine yourself as the panel. And if you have written an answer, just read it and see, is this the best answer that a candidate can give for this question, right? For example, for this question, as you said, right, there's a skill that you will get additionally, which is from the MBA curriculum, correct? So CA, of course, builds depth. MBA will give you, let's say, breadth, right? So it will tell you a lot about a lot of other things. And that is something that you believe will put you in a good position where you belong to that other 20%. You got into something like saying bottom 80%, which is not what it is.
Definitely
Right?
not, yeah.
So you are a very good candidate. Your 10th, 12th grad is working in your favor. A non-engineering female has its own advantages, which I'm sure you're aware of. So don't underperform. Okay. So I'm pretty sure you'll do well, but then you have to take care of these things.
So I'll refine my answers better. And what else should I cover before the
You practice
interviews?
more mock interviews. So at the center, they will have mock interviews, right? So prepare for that. Appear for as many interviews as you can. Because see, every interview will teach you something. So today, he asked you about 𝐶𝐫𝐵. Somebody might ask you about something else, correct? And then you will know how to handle that question. See, even for that puzzle question, initially you said 4 and I said no, that's not the answer. Then you started thinking of digits and whatever. So that thought process is important. So even if you don't know a trivia or a quiz or answer to, let's say, a puzzle, the thought process, if you explain them that, okay, this is what I'm thinking. So maybe could you have thought of number of factors?
Yeah.
Right. The final answer is not related to number. You have to think of 12 as the word, and that will tell you the answer. Okay. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Your selection is not dependent on 1 or 2 questions that you are able to answer or not able to answer. It's about an overall profile that you bring to the table and how much depth you have. And that depth was missing today. I'm not saying depth isn't there. I'm saying it wasn't highlighted today enough. Okay. Anything we want to add, Girish?
Yeah, and couple of times you mentioned I talk to my friends. For example, if you go to France, better learn French to understand culture. Then even for that CA question, I observed my friends who started preparation for CA foundation and all. So it's not about your friends.
Yeah, definitely.
So what you have to bring to table is that you are self-motivated person. Fine, you can take inspiration from somebody else. That's not at all a problem. But you have to add something on your own to that. So that part was missing. Now, suppose just take a hypothetical situation. If your friend was a doctor, would you go for medical? It's as simple as that. Right? It's not about others, it's about you. Inside your My IMS login, you will get, no, because you are interested in finance and you have got SPJ finance call and also IMK PGP flagship as well as finance both. Okay, so conducted sessions on finance, 3 sessions on economics, 3 sessions on finance. So all those recordings are available. That was done about last year or the year before, you know. Now, I have mentioned a lot about different job profiles in finance.
Yeah.
That you can go through. Yeah? So watch those recordings and then frame the answer accordingly. See, because if you say that I want to be a CFO, then as you said, majority of the time CFOs are CS. Right? So where MBA can be? Maybe equity research, maybe portfolio management, those kind of things. And also investment banking, risk analysis. So what is the difference between all these? So of course, during those within those 3 sessions, it's impossible to explain everything. But I have given the overview. So that it should not happen that I'm interested in India, I'm interested in Zimbabwe. Right? So we're talking about 2 completely different areas and they're trying to combine together. So it won't reflect very well in the interview if you try to do that. Now, whatever answers you are given, that's fine. But when it comes to interview, just go through those recordings and make sure that you are very well aware of different job profiles.
Yeah, definitely.
And what is it that you can do, and what is it that clicks you. And another point, of course, you may or may not want to talk about that in the interview, but go through LinkedIn profiles of different people.
Yeah.
So what have they done? I'm sure a lot of people from IMK are in senior positions, and same with the SPJ. They're working in senior positions in the industry. So accordingly, you can see what job profiles they are in and try to find out more about those job profiles. That will give you more insights.
See, your written answers are written very well. I went through all the answers that you have written. Very nicely written. But today you underperformed. So just take care of that. See, because even something like family business, you mentioned initially, but we didn't ask you anything about it. If you wanted to highlight that, you could have somehow brought it back in the conversation, somehow. And that responsibility is your responsibility, correct? So if you think I should be asked on it, then mention it. If you think, no, I don't want to answer, then don't mention it. Okay. And again, family business is always tricky to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because then, I don't know if you've seen the past interviews that we had done. Typical questions are, don't you want to go back? Right. If you already have a settled business, then why do an MBA?
That is something I did not want to answer. So I did not emphasize on it.
If you hadn't mentioned about family business, right, it's still okay.
Got it.
Correct. So figure out what you want to say, what you want to hold back as the information. Okay. Otherwise, you're a very good candidate. I'm sure you'll do well. Okay. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Indian rupee is not backed by gold, by the way.
Okay. I was unsure of that.
Okay. So all the very best.
Thank you.
You're a good candidate. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All the best.